I wanted to tell you, I haven't told you something that I haven't told you something.
What?
Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Natalie, what do I do?
I hope it's giddy. Guys, welcome back to the podcast. We are really it's interesting because the COVID climate is changing rapidly.
Yeah.
And people all over, and wherever you're living, there's a different mandates.
Yeah.
You know, like crazy.
You know, I got a text from we have like a street, the people on our street that are cool, not annoying. A text that said, you know how that you can see on the map where how many COVID cases are in your neighborhood and stuff.
Yeah.
And on our street, there's been 0 cases.
Oh,
reported.
But then it's sorry, if it's around, who went to what store? And did they go to the stores we shop at? You know what I mean? It's like
exactly. I mean, that's the craziest part is like, I know it's such a rotating conversation, never ending. But
yes.
When I think about like, I can't see my mom, but I can go to a grocery store where other people have been.
And she can go to the grocery store.
But I can't see her, but we could both be around hundreds of other people who've been in that grocery store. I mean, you know what I'm saying, girl?
I actually had I did have a question with my mom, just being like, you know, I'm beginning to be like, if we've been like in isolation for 2 weeks and 8 weeks or whatever and haven't seen anyone, like,
it's very confusing. I just feel like, you know what it reminds me of a lot of the time?
What?
It reminds me of how, and I hope this comes out right. When they say that pregnant women can't drink, okay?
Yes.
Or breastfeeding women can't drink, I feel like they're talking to the people. No, I'm not, okay. You got to keep listening. I feel like they're talking to the people who don't have common sense. And
right.
A lot of people don't have common sense. So when you're pregnant, can you have a sip of wine? Yes, you can. But I'm a response. If someone's like, here, can you just try this wine? See if you like it. Just buy you a case once you have the baby. I can have that. But
I like a case, not a bottle, a case. Got it.
But it's about common sense. And, you know, I was listening to somebody was interviewing, I think, like the premier, and he was like, and they were saying specific things like this, you know, and he was like, you just got to use your common sense, you know, basically, like if you're smart enough to make the right decision and you know what you're doing is okay, then that's,
you know why they say,
but
yeah,
but a lot of people do not have common sense, so they have to make blanket statements.
So with the wine thing, you know why they say the drinking and the thing, it's because if you have a glass of wine during the time that something's being developed at that time, which you don't know when, because your baby's always developing, that's when things can happen. So because they have no specification of like, so if you sip a glass, fine. But if you're how do I put it? So
I know what you're saying. I know
how Olivia has that thing in her mouth.
Yeah.
Like from her teeth.
Yeah.
Because at the time there was a development in her mouth and her body. She took an antibiotic at the exact same time, fluky and not common, but it happened. So that's weird because we can't, her teeth they think weren't even developed yet. They were somewhere in her, like she must've had an ear infection when she was like 7 months or something.
Huh.
And so the dentist was like, when she was, or I took something when I was pregnant or something happened. That the development at the same time, Shauna was like, it's crazy, but they coincided together and that's what happened. And I was like, whoa. She's like, that's where those things become problems.
Yeah.
So it's like a bit, that's why they kind of do that. But no, I understand what you're saying. You know what the bigger thing is for me, that there's no consistency. And I guess this disease has no consistency because, you know, like that guy who's in LA who's like 41 and lost his leg from COVID. And they said that his lungs, I watched a story yesterday and she was like, his wife was like, he's like a Broadway singer. And oh God, my thing just fell out. She basically said his lungs are like he's been smoking for 50 years. There's holes in them from COVID. Holes. in his lungs. And she's like, he's never smoked a day in his life.
And he's completely healthy.
He was. He's
Yes.
not right now. No, but yeah. So they were, and yeah. So anyways, it's this unknown, which is the problem. And so I understand why people are doing it. It's just, it's like you say, you go back and forth between being like, oh, and then being like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like it's
totally.
It's a very weird.
It's like a bipolar thoughts about COVID. But
like you're like, screw it. And then you're like, oh, but no, it's really bad. You know?
Whenever I hear the word antibiotics, I think about this. If you like antibiotics and getting caught in the rain.
I didn't know that.
I know.
So if you're a mom at home and you're like, oh God, like the rest of us are like, oh God, I would say that my kids overall, it's weird. The little one's getting bored now.
Ooh, touche.
Like the older ones are settling in. And I feel like the little one is now kind of, because I feel like her at that, which is so crazy because at each age they need something different, different stimulation. And I feel like her, and I'm sure probably TJ might be feeling it too. They really are, they are creative when they're with their people, because they play differently than the older ones are playing. Because the older ones don't really play. Right. They do things, right? And the little ones, they play. Like they actually chitty chat and they do like different things. And I'm finding, I think she's really, because I can't play like a 4-year-old because I'm not a 4-year-old.
That's right.
And they talk in 4-year-old, like they actually talk like 4-year-olds. And anyways, I'm now finding her like moody, way moodier than ever before. Huh. And I'm finding her, I think it's because she's bored.
Shit.
And I can't give her what she needs, Like I'm not enough. How everyone's like, we often say like you are enough as a mom. Like you're like they don't need a different mom, but they need more than just mom.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good distinction that people need to know. Like the people who don't leave their kids, and who are like, now I'm like, oh my God, my kids need so much more than just me, and more than I can't give them everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Do I still sound okay right here? Not as good?
You just sound different, but you sound a little bit more muffled, which is weird, but try it. No, it's good. I don't know.
I had to stretch.
Better.
Okay, I had to stretch my back.
And then I think about marriage, right? And like all these people, I wonder how many people are frustrated with their husbands right now because their husbands can't give them everything, but nor should their husbands give them everything. You're like, I want to talk to you. Like, I want to be like engaged with you in these conversations that you usually have with your girlfriends. And I wonder how many wives are like, ugh, and I'm like, but maybe that's not fair to flip the script and be like, now you have to be everything to me.
100%. And I just think it's going to be so interesting to hear stories, and not necessarily the negative, sad, bad stories about what comes out of this, but the other things, like the other stories about what happened during COVID to relationships and children and personal growth or the opposite. And also stories of I cannot believe Hassan is not on dating apps.
Dude.
This would be hours of entertainment. Hours.
I know, friend. I know. Or if, I think there's like, it's really interesting because we just finished our mastermind in April, and most of them were moms, and they were all entrepreneurs, and they were women. And, Sam was talking, and she said, it's so interesting because so many people are so idle right now because they're waiting for that. We've talked about this before, about the time when things go back, right? Like when they can, like, it's so easy to make excuses to not do right now. It's so easy to make excuses to not work out. It's so easy to make excuses to be lazy. It's so easy to make excuses to not eat healthy right now. Like everyone's like, oh, it's the pandemic, go easy on yourself. But
yeah, and everybody really tells you that. Like all the advice is like, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't worry if you're eating badly. Like, don't worry if you're drinking too much.
The only thing is that it's a lot of time. So if you're an entrepreneur,
it's a lot of time.
If you're an entrepreneur, you can't be not doing things. Like, I'm really sorry, you can't be. You have to be working on a new plan.
I know, and I think that as an entrepreneur, you could probably see if you're going to be successful, that you see this as a time where you actually can grow, even if you're just developing something and not like going live with it and you're just researching it. Or if you've been holding on. I was also thinking about all these people who were just about to launch their companies.
I know.
And they had all this stuff, but I don't think there's any reason why not to launch it, unless it has to be something that's like
brick and mortar.
Yes, brick and mortar. Oh God, well, something to reconsider there. Lindsay would be the first to tell you that when she left us for a year, she wanted to open up a store, like a gift shop. And she went all around and she compared rents and saw how many years you'd have to be locked in.
Yeah.
And she decided to go online, which was, thank God, because she would have gotten herself into one pickle, not to mention back then, but what about now? What a blessing that she couldn't afford the rent.
Yeah, and the rent is astronomical. But, I think that in terms of like our business and like where we're at and what we're doing, like we don't even have a future plan because we don't know what the future holds. So we're really not focused on the future right now. We're focused on like what literally it's like month by month, I cross my fingers and cross my toes that it's going to be a month that we can sustain. That's where I'm at right now. And I think that I'm like, I'm obsessed with being like, okay, like numbers, just because it gives us some control. Because like, number one, I have 2 kids now who are going to private school. And a second thing, I just bought a house and I'm renovating the house. And that was, these moves were made because I was bringing in an income where that's the only, I never let my husband rely on my income before, because as an entrepreneur with this world, I was like, let's not make these moves but I said, I'm pretty sure for the next 2 years, I could sustain what you're asking me to sustain.
Yeah.
That was before COVID.
Ooh, that is juicy. If you guys want to listen to this full Mom Truth podcast episode, head over to iTunes and Spotify. It's going to be good.